To the Psycho Pedophile. Alice Sellers, the Wicked Witch of West Vancouver, who is abusing my child, Austin. She molested him as an infant. That's one of the reasons why we went to live in a safe house for 2 months. This is all documented evidence against her. Just as she knew that I was being molested by Frank Sellers as a child, and she denied it and lied and covered it up, because to Alice, if she denies it, it didn't happen. Just like she denies that she is a violent, out of control child abuser who has now abducted my son, lying to him and abusing him every day because she cannot control her rage. And this is just all punishment to me because I'm the one who got away. Because the household that Alice runs is a household of living in fear. It's like a cult. In fact, every single documentary that I've watched on cult environments, they literally use the exact same wordage as Alice. Word for word are her phrases that I grew up hearing of the brainwashing to convince me not to say anything against her, not to stand up against her, not to tell the truth, and not to get myself taken out of her care. Well, care is a very loose word because she doesn't know the meaning of the word. Alice never wanted children. She makes that very clear. She hates children. She says they should be seen and not heard. All she wants to do is go to the coffee shop all day long and tell her kids to get the fuck out of her face and leave her alone. She would always say she couldn't understand why other people could have such good children who go to school and do their homework and do what they're told and leave their parents alone and behave themselves. Well, she was cursed with 2 fucking ungrateful bitches who ruined her life and were spoiled brats, when really the truth is that she just didn't want to spend any time with us. Imagine that, spending time with your children. I mean, what would you have children for? They're not for to spend time with. They're for to beat and have control over somebody and make yourself feel powerful. So you have an army of your little cult worshipers who will do everything you say and tell them to do. But because I wouldn't comply, and because I had special needs, I had learning disabilities, I would get the shit beat out of me pretty much on a daily basis, yelled and called every single name in the book, and told how I was an embarrassment, and how dare I ruin her life, and why couldn't I be just like everybody else's kids who just did their schoolwork and then got the fuck out of her face. And she wouldn't help me do my schoolwork. She would either beat the shit out of me because I couldn't understand what was going on, when she didn't understand it either. Because when she would do my homework for me, it would always come back wrong. And then I'd get beat up for that more too, because I should have explained it to her better. Because I should have known what was going on as a child. Just like every time I'd get bullied at school or beat up for the gossip that she would cause, she would not take accountability for actions. Once again, she would say how, well, you're not at school to make friends. You're just there to do your work and get the hell out. That's your job. You're a child. That's your job. So do what I'm telling you to do and get the fuck out of my face. Literally, as a child, I would take other friends to coffee shops in the mall because that's all I saw her do. And when you are little, you copy the people around you. And I couldn't figure out why other kids thought it was so weird to go sit in coffee shops. Not that we were drinking coffee, I would just order fries, but, because we were never taught how to be kids and how to play games. I didn't have anyone to take me fishing or play hockey with me or do all the things that I did with Austin and all the things that I wanted to do or asked to be done with me, but I would just get kicked around and ignored. So then I would do things like hide behind the YMCA every day crying, or get into every single class and activity I could to stay the hell out of her house. Sometimes I'd have 3 activities a night. And every activity we get into, Tina would quit because she was encouraged to, because it was too much work for Alice to have to drive us around anywhere. And I was always told that I was stupid because I wouldn't quit. And I was just wasting her money going to things that I was no good at anyway. Because there's no positive encouragement from this psychopath. She has no training on how to be a parent and no training at all on how to deal with a child with special needs. So why is it that my child with special needs is being forced to live in her abusive environment is beyond me. I mean, she's not qualified to do anything. She couldn't even parent the children she did have. I mean, nobody who's ever lived in her house has ever graduated high school. Tina became a drug addict and went to the coffee shop every day because, like I said, that's what, you're taught to do, is just go to the coffee shop every single day. So that's what Tina did. She skipped school, went to the coffee shop every day and smoked pot and drank and smoked and failed out of school. And I had the brains to get myself moved out of that house so that I could graduate high school. Yet somehow I was still always the bad child, even though I'm the one who, tried to accomplish things. But it's because I was having a brain of my own and trying to escape her. And every single exchange student that has lived in that house has requested a move out of that house. I mean, it shows a lot about the character of somebody who abducts a child, lies to him and tells him she's his grandmother, and refuses to allow him to have any contact with his mom or any of his family. I mean, what kind of sick, mentally ill person who's supposed to be a foster parent refuses to let the foster child have any contact with any of his family members? Not one person Austin has ever known has seen or heard from him. And that's designed that way because they don't want anybody to be able to speak out about how far he's regressed. Because if nobody who's known him before he was abducted can see him or speak about how he's changed, then they can just keep pretending that he's doing well, which is what they lie and say about every foster child. When the truth is that he's being lied to and abused. And no other foster home would prevent a child from being able to speak to his mom or have any contact with his mom or his friends or his family for 4 years and like almost 3 months now. So that shows you right there what kind of abusive environment my child is being forced to live in when he's not allowed to see or speak to anybody because Alice doesn't want the truth known because she's threatened by the truth. Because this is all a big game to her. This isn't about her wanting a child. I mean, I have all the emails of her threatening me, threatening other people, trying to buy Austin from me, threatening to send him to Europe to live with his sperm donor because she can't handle him and doesn't want anything to do with him. What kind of foster parent says those kinds of nasty things about their foster child and then the child is not removed from that home? Really, it shows how many people she's paying off, that there's so much evidence in police reports of her beating me while I was pregnant, beating me while I was holding my son, and stalking my son's daycare in Cranbrook, which is a 10-hour drive away from her house. So much evidence that just keeps going ignored, which shows you right there how she's paying people off. I mean, even Helmut knows the truth, but he's taking the payoffs and the fact that he no longer has to pay child support. So he'll just pretend that Austin's not being abused so that he doesn't have to pay any money and speak out about the truth, even though he couldn't handle living with Alice either. Frank won't speak out against Alice because he's afraid of her and doesn't want to lose money in a divorce. And that's exactly how she designed her household, is she picked as she calls him, a pansy of a husband, alcoholic, who she could control with her fear-mongering and abuse. And now she just wants another victim in her pile because she's trying to prove that she's right over me. But Austin will speak out one day because he's not going to sit quiet when he finds out the truth about how he's been lied to. I mean, he's going to say the truth about how he's been beaten by her and how he's been called names every day of his life and lied to and told that his mom doesn't love him and doesn't want him, and how his life has been ruined by this severely psychotic child abuser. I mean, she can't control her rage. She won't go get help. She refuses to acknowledge that she has a problem. Instead, she just blames everybody else around her for her rage. Remember the time, Alice, when you poured a 2-liter of milk on my head while I was holding Austin as an infant and he'd just fallen asleep in my arms? And then you blamed me and said it was my fault that you dumped the milk on my head and woke up my sleeping baby? It's funny how when you see all these kinds of things depicted on TV, in shows and movies and in documentary series is like, 2020 and stuff like that. They all talk about how psychotic and abusive these people are. But Alice keeps getting away with this. All the evidence just keeps getting ignored because clearly the people who are supposed to be protecting my child are not doing their job because they'd rather cover their asses and take payoffs than get my child somewhere safe and admit that what they did was wrong and that my child is not in a safe place. So they keep lying, keep letting my child be abused, and he won't be capable of a normal life because, like me, he'll have PTSD, which he probably already has. He probably already has the same night terrors that I have of Alice and Frank and Tina beating me. Yeah, why don't you ask Austin, Alice? Ask Austin why he'd have to wake his mom up from screaming in her sleep. He knows exactly why. You can't fake that. That's called PTSD from child abuse from you because you're psychotic and violent. And you refuse to admit the truth about yourself. Because if you cared anything about my child, you'd let him go somewhere safe and you'd check yourself into a mental institution and get yourself some help. You've had zero training on how to be a parent, zero training on how to deal with a child with special needs. You don't even go to anger management. You don't tell your therapist the truth about anything. Did you ever tell anybody how many times I tried to kill myself in your care? Ever tell anybody the truth about how many times you have found me trying to kill myself? No, because then that would show that you're a bad parent. So you'd never admit that truth to anybody. I wonder how many times Austin's tried to kill himself while in your care, and you just cover it up and ignore his cries for help and how he wants to get the fuck away from you and how he wants to get to safety. If you cared anything about my child, you'd stop torturing him. But no, this is all about control because you want to keep torturing me because I dared to get away from you. How dare I put my sanity and my child's protection before letting you keep abusing us? What kind of person must I be if I wanted to actually have a sane life free from fear and protect my child from you? You're very sick. Isn't it bad enough that you damaged me and you damaged Tina, but now you have to damage my child too? Yeah, I read Tina's letter when she moved out of the house because she couldn't stand your abuse. She was sick and tired of being called a loser every day and yelled and screamed at every day, but she couldn't really get out of your control, could she? Because she had to move somewhere where you still had control over her and you paid her rent. You paid for her entire lifestyle. And now from what I hear, she's still not capable of living on her own because she still lives under your thumb. In your house, in fact. So what is it you produce? You have one child on disability due to all the abuse that you've caused me. And another child who can't live on her own. She still has to live on your dime in your house. And you think that you're a good parent? When none of your kids are able to have a functioning life in this world. And that's the damage you're doing to my child. Even worse, because you abducted him from a loving mom who actually cared about him and did things with him every day. How many times have you gone outside and played hockey with him? How many times have you walked him to the driving range and hit balls with him for hours a day? Or gone swimming with him? Hell, you never even went swimming with me. You couldn't stand to go to the pool. And you hated the fact that you'd have to drop me off there and sit and wait for me. That's why you told me to quit everything. Because you didn't want to be a parent. You didn't want to sit around and wait for your kid to do anything and have any hobbies. That's the difference between you and I. I actually enjoyed being a parent. So when my kid would want to be at the golf course for 2 hours longer because somebody was taking him around in the golf cart to pick up all the golf balls and I'm sitting there bored, I was still happy because I knew my kid was having fun. I didn't care if it made us 2 hours late for the rest of the day. Whereas you would have had a fit and been yelling and screaming and swearing and blaming the kid for making you late and ruining your day. Because you can't handle anything. You hate yourself so much, you refuse to get help, and you just blame everyone around you for your fucked up life. right? All the times you beat the shit out of me, pull my hair out, spit on me, kick me, call me names, and then tell me how I had it much better than you had it. Because you can't get over yourself. So instead you take it out on everybody else around you. Because you hate yourself. And now you're abusing my child. Guess what? The truth's gonna come out about you eventually. Because you can't keep Austin under your control forever. And he's part of me. And just like me, he's gonna fight back. Then what are you gonna do? You can't deny the truth forever.